Adolescence is about answering the fundamental question, who am I? And that's a really hard question. It's probably the single hardest question of our lifetimes. And what adolescents are supposed to do is try on different hats, to experiment a bit. And sometimes they do kind of the opposite of who they think they are, just to try it on for size. And that is actually developmentally normal, even if it's maddening, because you see your little son or daughter not being who you think that they are. But it's actually them figuring out who they are. Then there are other issues, which is that there are certain time periods during adolescence. They're not always easy, because part of figuring out who you are is trying to define other people as the other, who you're not. And that's kind of a setup sometimes for bullying and bad feelings between young people. So what you want is for your kid to know that they're okay just the way they are. Because as they're trying on different hats, and as they might experience bullying or other people saying they're not okay the way they are, the absolute, undoubtedly, unwaveringly most important thing a human being can have is to be unconditionally loved. And that is the role of parents. The role of parents is to know who kids really are in all of their goodness, right? You know, it's we who know their character. It's we who know that they used to walk bugs outside to be with their bug grandmas, right? We know their essential goodness. And what they need to know is we're not going anywhere, even as they try on these different hats. So what's not going to work is us condemning them or us necessarily separating them from friends, as long as the friends are generally healthy for them. That isn't going to work. What is going to work is for us to give them the authentic, to use your word, the authentic security of knowing that they're loved just the way they are. Because that gives them this landing port to always come back to. And during those moments where their best friends hate them for a week, it's critically important that they can always turn back to you. And let me make one final point. It's also critically important that they have more than one circle of friends during, especially the middle school years. Because as they're trying on different hats, what may happen is that they may be rejected by a circle of friends. And what you don't want is for your child ever to be completely isolated. So if we can make sure that there are also, cousins or extended family or, after school clubs or religious schools, something so there's more than one circle of friends so that they are never completely isolated, that's incredibly protective. One of the advantages of being an adult is that we've lived through ups and downs in our lives, and we've learned a lesson that it's not that young people are naive, it's just that they haven't lived long enough yet. What we've learned is that we've hit our rock bottoms and couldn't imagine ever coming out of it, and we did. So when I think about my grandmother and I think about what she taught me and like her voice in my head, it's lessons like, you'll get through this. This too shall pass. These are lessons that young people just don't have the life experience, right? But if we just leave it at that, and when a young person is feeling isolated or has been rejected, and we just say, you'll get through this, or this too shall pass, they may or may not believe us, but it's not enough. Because the second half of the sentence has to be there at 2, which is, I trust that you're going to get through this, but I know it hurts like heck right now, and you're not alone, and I'm here with you, right? Because what we can never do is belittle emotions, but acknowledge how hard it is. Acknowledge that they're not alone in their journey, but that you trust that they're going to get through this. Life can be hard, And I don't want to sugarcoat that. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have joy every single day of our lives. It's actually a necessity. It's what gives us the energy to move on and to get through difficult times, right? But when we're talking about having joy, it can be something as simple as playing cards, going for a walk, saying a prayer, taking a shower, calling a friend. It can be all of that easy stuff. But what we don't want to do is paint it as something that is trite. Like, take care of yourself, darling, have joy. Like, if you do that, that just makes people who are having trouble finding joy feel bad about themselves. So that's not okay either. I think during our lowest of times, what we should really do is find joy by finding a sense of meaning and purpose. So during the lowest times is the time that we actually need each other the most. It is the time when people's vulnerabilities are most apparent, where society's ills are most evident. And what that means is we can all choose to become part of the solution. And when we give to others, when we look in our communities and say, who is particularly vulnerable? We look in our families or our extended families and say, who needs me now? And then we give, and then we support. Then what's going to happen is we're going to be reminded that we have value, right? So in the worst of times, we connect, we give. And that gives us a sense of meaning and purpose. And that is a deep-seated, real kind of joy. And when we allow our young people to do this as well, it also is deeply protective of them for the worst of times. Because think about it, the ultimate act of resilience in the worst of times is to reach out to another human being and say, sister, I need a hand. That's your ultimate act of resilience. What is it that allows you to reach? You don't reach if you think the other person's going to pity you. You don't go there. You reach when you know that there is no pity and you know that in some way the other person actually is enjoying giving service to you. Not joyful about it, but gaining a sense of meaning and purpose. There's some a reciprocal nature to this. So when I know that I have given a lot in my life, I'm imperfect in many ways, but when I ultimately am going to need to begin receiving, I'm not going to feel like the other person's pitying me. I'm going to feel like the roles have reversed now, and now it's my turn. So I think we need to redefine joy in these times and understand how important it is not to give up.